The soft glow of candlelight flickered across the table, casting a warm, romantic ambiance that filled the cozy corner of the restaurant. I had spent weeks planning this surprise for our anniversary. The bouquet of roses, the perfectly selected wine, and the gentle strains of a violinist playing in the background all set the stage for what was supposed to be a memorable evening. Jennifer looked stunning in her emerald green dress, her smile lighting up the room as we toasted to another year together. Everything seemed perfect until her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and I saw a flash of something, anxiety, perhaps guilt, cross her face. "I'm sorry, I need to take this," she said, excusing herself and heading towards the restroom. I watched her go, a knot of unease tightening in my stomach. She was gone for longer than I expected. When she finally returned, her demeanor had changed. She was quieter and more reserved, and her eyes seemed to dart around the room, never quite meeting mine. I tried to push the discomfort away, focusing instead on the beautiful evening I had orchestrated for us. But the seed of doubt had been planted. Over the next few weeks, Jennifer's behavior grew increasingly erratic. She started coming home late, citing important meetings and urgent projects at work. Her explanations felt rehearsed, and there was a distance growing between us that I couldn't bridge. One night, driven by a mix of suspicion and desperation, I decided to follow her after she left the house for one of her late meetings. My heart pounded as I pulled up to her office building, the familiar sight now shrouded in suspicion. Her car was there, parked next to a sleek black sedan I recognized as belonging to her boss, Robert. The lights in the office were still on, despite the late hour. I waited, hoping for a reasonable explanation, but deep down I knew the truth was far from innocent. That night, while Jennifer slept, I took her phone and scrolled through her messages. My hands trembled as I read the explicit texts between her and Robert. Each word felt like a dagger, driving deeper into my heart. I woke her up, my voice barely controlled as I confronted her. She denied it at first, but the evidence was undeniable. Eventually, tears streaming down her face, she admitted to the affair. Betrayal seared through me, but even as I stood there, shattered and furious, a cold, calculated resolve began to form. Jennifer had destroyed our marriage, but Robert had manipulated and taken advantage of her. He was the one who needed to be punished. I vowed to make him pay, to tear his life apart piece by piece. Days turned into weeks, and the initial shock of Jennifer's betrayal began to morph into a simmering anger. The perfect image of our life together was shattered, replaced by a painful reality that gnawed at me constantly. I found myself replaying that night over and over in my mind, each memory of her confession cutting deeper. But amidst the hurt, a plan was beginning to take shape. I knew that confronting Robert directly would be futile. He held a position of power, and any rash actions on my part could easily be dismissed or twisted against me. Instead, I needed to be strategic and methodical. The first step was to understand my enemy better than he understood himself. I started by researching Robert's background. He was a well-respected figure in his field, with a seemingly perfect family life. His wife Claire was active in various social circles, and they had 2 children who attended an elite private school. On the surface, his life was flawless, but everyone has secrets, and I was determined to find his. Through social media and a few discreet conversations with people who knew him, I pieced together a picture of Robert's vulnerabilities. He had a penchant for risky investments and a history of extramarital affairs. I even found out that his relationship with his wife was far from the idyllic facade they presented. Armed with this information, I began the process of dismantling his life. My first move was to send an anonymous letter to Claire. I detailed Robert's affair with Jennifer, including dates, times, and copies of some of the explicit messages I had found. I imagined the devastation it would cause, the trust it would shatter. It was a small satisfaction, but it was only the beginning. Claire's reaction was immediate and explosive. The perfect image of their marriage crumbled. She confronted Robert, and their fights became the talk of their social circle. But I wasn't content with just personal turmoil. I wanted to hit him where it would hurt the most, his career. I compiled all the evidence of Robert's unethical behavior at work, inappropriate relationships with subordinates, misuse of company funds for personal expenses, and risky business decisions that could jeopardize the company's stability. I packaged everything into a neat dossier and sent it to the company's board of directors. The fallout was swift. Robert was called into an emergency meeting, and despite his attempts to deny and downplay the accusations, the evidence was overwhelming. He was dismissed from his position, his professional reputation in ruins. The media caught wind of the scandal, and it became a public spectacle. Watching his downfall unfold, I felt a grim satisfaction. Justice, in my eyes, had been served. Meanwhile, my own life was undergoing drastic changes. The divorce from Jennifer was finalized, with the court granting me favorable terms. She moved out, leaving behind a shell of the home we once shared. I focused on rebuilding, throwing myself into work, and reconnecting with friends I had neglected during our marriage. Support came from unexpected places. My colleagues rallied around me, offering both professional and personal assistance. My boss, sensing my turmoil, encouraged me to take on new projects and responsibilities, which proved to be a welcome distraction. Slowly, the pieces of my shattered life began to realign. One evening, as I was going through some old photos, I came across an album from happier times. Instead of feeling a pang of sadness, I felt a strange sense of closure. The memories were just that, memories. They no longer had the power to hurt me. I realized that I had moved past the worst of it, emerging stronger and more resolute. Life took an unexpected turn when I met Melissa. She was everything Jennifer wasn't: genuine, kind, and supportive. Our relationship blossomed naturally, built on mutual respect and understanding. Melissa knew about my past, and her empathy helped heal wounds I thought would never close. Seeing Jennifer again by chance, a year after our divorce, was a surreal experience. She looked lost, the confident woman I once knew reduced to a shadow of her former self. We exchanged a brief, polite greeting before continuing on our separate ways. It was a poignant reminder of how far I had come. As I walked away, I felt a sense of peace. My journey had been painful and filled with moments of darkness, but it had led me to a place of strength and clarity. The revenge I had sought was complete, but more importantly, I had found a new beginning. My life, once shattered, was now whole again. Jennifer's betrayal had left a deep scar, but I was determined that she wouldn't escape the consequences of her actions. She had torn apart our life together, and while I had already confronted her and set the wheels of divorce in motion, I felt that true retribution demanded more. The first step in my plan was to ensure that Jennifer faced significant financial hardship. During our marriage, I had been the primary breadwinner, while she had held a modest job that didn't pay much. In the divorce proceedings, I made sure to highlight her infidelity, providing explicit messages and other evidence to the court. This helped sway the judge in my favor, leading to a settlement that left Jennifer with minimal support. She received only a small portion of our assets, just enough to scrape by. Jennifer had always loved our house. It was her sanctuary, the place where she felt most at ease. Knowing this, I insisted on keeping the house. I offered to buy out her share, which, given the favorable divorce terms, was not much. She was forced to move out and find a smaller, less comfortable place to live. The look on her face as she packed her belongings and left the house for the last time was a bittersweet moment for me. But financial hardship was just the beginning. I knew that Jennifer valued her social standing and the respect of her friends and family. I made sure that everyone knew the truth about her infidelity. I didn't spread malicious gossip. Instead, I let the facts speak for themselves. At social gatherings, I would subtly let slip what had happened, ensuring that people learned about her betrayal. Her reputation took a significant hit, and many of our mutual friends distanced themselves from her. Professionally, Jennifer was already at a disadvantage. Her job was stable, but unremarkable, and she had always relied on my support to pursue her interests. I knew that without me, she would struggle to maintain her lifestyle. I didn't actively sabotage her career, but I made sure that she understood that any support she had counted on from me was now gone. She had to fend for herself, and the transition was anything but smooth. Despite everything, I knew that my revenge on Jennifer needed to be more than just about financial and social ruin. It had to address the emotional damage she had caused. One of the ways I achieved this was by moving on with my life in a way that demonstrated I was better off without her. I made new friends, pursued new hobbies, and excelled at my job. When I started dating Melissa, I made sure that Jennifer saw how happy I was. It wasn't about flaunting my new relationship. It was about showing her that she had lost someone who had moved on to a better life. One evening, several months after our divorce was finalized, Jennifer called me. Her voice was shaky, and she asked if we could meet for coffee. Curious, I agreed. When we met, she looked tired and worn out. Gone was the confident woman I had once loved. "I wanted to apologize," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know I hurt you deeply, and I regret everything I've done. My life has fallen apart since the divorce, and I just wanted to say I'm sorry." I looked at her, feeling a mixture of pity and satisfaction. "Apology accepted," I said calmly. "But understand this, Jennifer. Your actions have consequences. I've moved on, and I'm happy now. I suggest you try to do the same." As I left the coffee shop, I felt a sense of closure. My revenge on Jennifer wasn't about making her suffer. It was about ensuring she understood the gravity of her betrayal. I had rebuilt my life, and in doing so, I had shown her what she had lost. Justice had been served, and I could finally move forward, free from the shadows of our past. After the storm of betrayal and retribution, my life began to stabilize. The divorce was finalized, Jennifer was out of my life, and I could finally focus on rebuilding. The sense of freedom was exhilarating, and I threw myself into my work and hobbies with renewed energy. I started running again, a pastime I had neglected during the latter years of my marriage. Early morning jogs through the park became my therapy sessions, the rhythm of my feet hitting the pavement a soothing mantra. It was during one of these runs that I first saw Melissa. She was running in the opposite direction, her long brown hair tied back in a ponytail, a look of determination on her face. We passed each other a few times over the next week, exchanging polite nods. One day I decided to stop and stretch by a bench, hoping to catch her attention as she passed. She slowed down and smiled at me. "Hey there, we keep passing each other," she said, her voice warm and friendly. "Yeah, I've noticed," I replied, returning her smile. "I'm Mike." "Melissa," she said, extending her hand. We shook hands, and I felt a spark of connection that I hadn't felt in a long time. Our morning runs became a ritual that both Melissa and I eagerly anticipated. The crisp air of dawn, the rhythmic sound of our footsteps, and the easy flow of conversation created a bond that felt natural and effortless. Each day we discovered more about each other, and each day my feelings for her grew stronger. It all started with a casual suggestion one morning after our run. "How about we grab breakfast together?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light despite the nervous flutter in my stomach. Melissa's eyes lit up. "I'd love that," she replied with a smile that made my heart skip a beat. We found a quaint cafe near the park, a place neither of us had tried before. The atmosphere was cozy, with soft jazz playing in the background, and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filling the air. We settled into a corner booth and ordered a hearty breakfast. "So, tell me more about yourself," Melissa said, her eyes twinkling with curiosity. "What do you do when you're not running or working?" I laughed, feeling a bit self-conscious. "Well, I'm a bit of a history buff. I love reading about ancient civilizations and visiting historical sites. And I've recently taken up cooking. It's been an adventure." She giggled. "Cooking, huh? Any specialties?" "Not really. I've mastered the art of not burning toast, though," I joked. "What about you? What do you do for fun?" Melissa leaned back, her face thoughtful. "I'm really into art. I paint, mostly landscapes. It's my way of unwinding, and I love hiking. Being out in nature helps me clear my head." As we shared stories over breakfast, I found myself captivated by her passion and creativity. There was an authenticity about her that was refreshing. She talked about her work as a graphic designer, her love for her 2 rescue cats, and her dream of someday opening her own art studio. Her eyes sparkled when she spoke about her aspirations, and I felt a growing admiration for her. Our breakfast dates became a regular thing. After each run, we'd explore different cafes and diners, each with its own unique charm. We discussed everything from our favorite books and movies to our hopes and fears. There was a comforting ease in our conversations, a sense of being understood and accepted. One weekend, Melissa suggested a hiking trip. "There's a beautiful trail about an hour's drive from here. It's got some amazing views. Want to check it out?" "Absolutely," I agreed, excited about spending more time with her. We set out early, the car packed with snacks and water bottles. The drive was filled with laughter and music, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of contentment. When we arrived at the trailhead, the morning sun was just beginning to rise, casting a golden glow over the landscape. The hike was challenging but invigorating. We navigated rocky paths and steep inclines, pausing occasionally to take in the breathtaking scenery. At the summit, we sat on a large rock, overlooking a valley blanketed in lush greenery. "This is incredible," I said, catching my breath. "Thank you for bringing me here." Melissa smiled, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "I'm glad you came. It's nice to share this with someone who appreciates it." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, simply enjoying the view and each other's presence. When we finally made our way back down, I felt a deep sense of connection with her, a bond forged through shared experiences and genuine companionship. As the weeks turned into months, our relationship continued to grow. We supported each other through life's ups and downs, celebrating successes and comforting each other in times of need. Melissa encouraged me to pursue my interests and was my biggest cheerleader when I took on new challenges. I did the same for her, attending her art exhibits and cheering her on in her creative endeavors. One evening, after a particularly stressful day at work, Melissa surprised me with a home-cooked meal. "I know you've had a rough day, so I thought I'd make us something special," she said, her eyes filled with warmth. The table was set with candles and a bouquet of flowers. The aroma of roasted chicken and fresh herbs filled the air. As we sat down to eat, I felt a wave of gratitude. Here was someone who cared for me deeply, who wanted to make me happy. After dinner, we sat on the couch, a glass of wine in hand. "Melissa," I said, turning to her, "you've brought so much joy into my life. I never thought I could feel this way again, after everything that happened with Jennifer. You've shown me what it means to truly love and be loved." She reached out and took my hand, her eyes soft and filled with emotion. "Mike, you've made me happier than I ever thought possible. I love you." "I love you too," I whispered, pulling her into a tender embrace. At that moment, I realized how far I had come. The pain of the past had faded, replaced by the warmth and promise of a new beginning. With Melissa by my side, I felt ready to face whatever the future held. Together, we were building something beautiful, something lasting, and for the first time in a long while, I felt truly at peace. As Melissa and I settled into our life together, I felt a sense of happiness and contentment that I hadn't experienced in years. Our days were filled with laughter, shared dreams, and simple pleasures. Yet as much as I wanted to leave the past behind, there was still unfinished business that needed to be addressed. One day, while cleaning out the attic, I stumbled upon an old box filled with mementos from my marriage to Jennifer. Photos, letters, and other relics of a time when I believed in a future that no longer existed. The discovery stirred up a mixture of emotions. Part of me wanted to throw everything away and forget, but another part knew that facing these memories was necessary for true closure. That evening, I sat down with Melissa and shared my discovery. "I found a box of old things from my marriage," I said, my voice heavy with the weight of the past. "I think it's time to go through it and finally let go." Melissa, ever supportive, nodded. "Do you want me to help, or would you prefer to do it alone?" "I'd appreciate your company," I admitted. "I think it would help to have you here." We went through the box together, piece by piece. The photos of Jennifer and me during happier times were bittersweet. I explained the context of each one to Melissa, sharing stories that had once brought joy, but now felt like echoes of a distant past. She listened with empathy, never judging, just offering quiet support. Among the items was our wedding album. As I flipped through the pages, I felt a pang of sadness, but also a sense of detachment. The man in those photos was someone different, someone who hadn't yet experienced the betrayal and heartache that would reshape his life. We found a stack of letters Jennifer had written to me early in our relationship. As I read them, I remembered the love and hope we once shared. But that love had been tainted, and those hopes had been dashed. Melissa squeezed my hand, grounding me in the present and reminding me of the love I had now. At the bottom of the box was a journal I had kept during the last year of my marriage. I had poured my heart into its pages, documenting my suspicions, my pain, and my eventual discovery of Jennifer's affair. Reading through it was like reopening old wounds, but it also provided a sense of release. I had survived that dark time, and I had come out stronger. When we finished, I felt lighter, as if a burden had been lifted from my shoulders. "Thank you for being here," I said to Melissa, pulling her into a hug. "I couldn't have done this without you." I'm glad I could help, she replied softly. You needed to face this, and I'm proud of you for doing it. That night, as we lay in bed, I reflected on how far I'd come. The process of going through that box had been cathartic. I was finally ready to fully let go of the past and embrace the future with Melissa. A few weeks later, an unexpected message arrived. It was from Jennifer. She asked if we could meet for coffee. Curiosity and a sense of unfinished business prompted me to agree. I needed to close this episode of my life once and for all. We met at a small cafe, the same one where we had our final conversation about her betrayal. Jennifer looked different, older, more worn, a shadow of the confident woman I once knew. We exchanged polite pleasantries before getting to the heart of the matter. I wanted to apologize again, Mike, Jennifer said, her voice tinged with regret. I've had a lot of time to reflect on my actions, and I know I hurt you deeply. I'm truly sorry. I appreciate your apology, I replied, feeling a surprising sense of calm. I've moved on, and I'm in a better place now. She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. I'm glad to hear that. You deserve happiness. And so do you, I said, meaning it. I hope you find it. As we parted ways, I felt a profound sense of closure. The past was finally behind me. Jennifer was no longer a source of pain, but a part of my history that had helped shape who I had become. Returning home to Melissa, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The future was bright, and I was ready to embrace it fully. With her by my side, I knew that anything was possible. Our love was a testament to resilience and the power of new beginnings. The past had been faced and put to rest, and now only the promise of tomorrow lay ahead. With the past firmly behind me, Melissa and I focused on building a future together. Our relationship continued to deepen, and we found joy in the everyday moments we shared. It was a time of healing and growth, and I felt a sense of peace that had eluded me for so long. One weekend, we decided to take a trip to the countryside. We rented a cozy cabin by a lake, surrounded by nature. It was the perfect getaway, a chance to disconnect from the hustle and bustle of everyday life and simply enjoy each other's company. The first evening, as we sat by the fire, Melissa snuggled up against me. This place is perfect, she said, her voice filled with contentment. Thank you for bringing me here. I wanted us to have some time away, just the two of us, I replied, kissing the top of her head. You've brought so much joy into my life, Melissa. I wanted to do something special for you. She smiled and looked up at me, her eyes reflecting the flickering flames. You're special to me too, Mike. I love you. I love you too, I said, feeling a rush of emotion. I can't imagine my life without you. The next morning, we decided to explore the area. We hiked through the woods, discovering hidden trails and scenic viewpoints. The fresh air and the beauty of nature were invigorating, and we spent the day laughing and talking, enjoying the simplicity of being together. In the afternoon, we rented a small rowboat and went out on the lake. The water was calm, the surface shimmering in the sunlight. As we drifted, we talked about our dreams and plans for the future. Do you ever think about where we'll be in a few years? Melissa asked, trailing her fingers in the water. All the time, I admitted. I see us building a life together, maybe even starting a family. What about you? She nodded, her expression thoughtful. I want that too. A home filled with love and laughter. I've always dreamed of having a place where I can paint and create, and where we can build a life together. We'll make that happen, I said, squeezing her hand. Whatever it takes, we'll make our dreams come true. As the sun began to set, we returned to the cabin, feeling more connected than ever. That evening, we cooked dinner together, sharing stories and making plans for the future. It was a simple, yet perfect day. Back at home, life continued at its usual pace, but there was a renewed sense of purpose in everything we did. We began looking for a house, a place we could call our own. It was an exciting and sometimes stressful process, but we supported each other every step of the way. After months of searching, we found the perfect home. It was a charming old house with a lot of character. It needed some work, but we saw the potential and fell in love with it instantly. We made an offer, and it was accepted. Moving in was a whirlwind of activity. Friends and family helped us pack and unpack, and soon our new house began to feel like home. We spent weekends renovating and decorating, turning it into a space that reflected both our personalities and tastes. One evening, as we sat on the porch, Enjoying a quiet moment, Melissa turned to me with a smile. "This feels right," she said. "This house, our life together, it's everything I've ever wanted." "Me too," I said, taking her hand. "It's more than I ever dreamed of. I'm so grateful for you, Melissa. For us." As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, we settled into our new life. We hosted dinners for friends, took long walks in our neighborhood, and planned our future together. The house, once just a dream, became a home filled with love and laughter. One evening, while we were having dinner, Melissa brought up an idea she had been thinking about. "Mike, I've been considering something," she said, a hint of excitement in her voice. "What if we turned one of the rooms into an art studio? I could paint, and maybe even start teaching classes." "I think that's a fantastic idea," I replied, feeling a surge of pride. "You should definitely do it. You're so talented, and I know it would bring you a lot of joy." We spent the next few weeks transforming a spare room into a beautiful studio. Melissa's paintings adorned the walls, and the space was filled with light and inspiration. Watching her create and seeing the joy it brought her made me even more certain that our future was bright. With each passing day, our love grew stronger. We faced challenges and celebrated victories together, always supporting and encouraging one another. The pain of the past had faded, replaced by the warmth and promise of a new beginning. As we looked toward the future, I knew that whatever came our way, we would face it together. Our journey was just beginning, and I couldn't wait to see where it would take us. With Melissa by my side, I felt ready to embrace all the possibilities that lay ahead. With Melissa's art studio up and running, our lives settled into a rhythm that felt both comfortable and exciting. The house truly became our sanctuary, a place where dreams took root and flourished. Our days were filled with love, creativity, and a deepening sense of partnership. One bright Saturday morning, we decided to host a housewarming party to celebrate our new home and share our joy with friends and family. We spent the day preparing and filling the house with delicious food, music, and laughter. As evening approached, guests began to arrive, and soon the house was buzzing with conversation and cheer. I moved through the crowd, greeting old friends and making new ones, but I always kept an eye on Melissa. She moved with grace and ease, her face glowing with happiness. Seeing her so at home in our new space filled me with pride and love. As the night wore on, I found myself standing on the porch, taking a moment to breathe in the cool night air. Melissa joined me, slipping her hand into mine. "This has been wonderful," she said, her eyes sparkling. "I'm so glad we did this." "Me too," I replied, squeezing her hand. "It's been a perfect evening." After the last guest had left and we had tidied up the house, Melissa and I sat down together, exhausted but happy. We talked about the evening, sharing our favorite moments and laughing about the funny stories we had heard. As we settled into bed that night, Melissa turned to me with a serious expression. "Mike, there's something I've been thinking about," she said softly. "I know we've talked about the future, but I wanted to see how you feel about starting a family." Her words took me by surprise, but in the best possible way. I had thought about it too, but hearing her say it out loud made it feel more real. "I'd love that," I said, feeling a rush of excitement. "I've always wanted a family, and I can't imagine anyone I'd rather do that with than you." A smile spread across her face, and she leaned in to kiss me. "I feel the same way," she whispered. "Let's make it happen." From that moment on, our conversations often turned to the future and the family we wanted to build. We talked about everything from baby names to the kind of parents we wanted to be. It was an exciting and hopeful time, filled with dreams of what lay ahead. One weekend, Melissa suggested we take a short trip to a nearby town, known for its beautiful countryside and charming atmosphere. It was a place we had both wanted to visit, and it felt like the perfect escape. We spent the days exploring the town, walking through its picturesque streets and enjoying the local cuisine. On the last day of our trip, we found a quiet spot by a river and had a picnic. As we sat there, enjoying the peaceful surroundings, Melissa took my hand. "I have something to tell you," she said, her eyes shining with emotion. "I'm pregnant." The words hit me like a wave of joy, and I pulled her into a tight embrace. "That's amazing," I said, my voice choked with emotion. "I can't believe it. We're going to be parents." Tears of happiness streamed down her face as we held each other, the enormity of the moment sinking in. We spent the rest of the day talking about our hopes and dreams for our child, feeling a sense of connection and purpose that was stronger than ever. Back home, we began preparing for the arrival of our baby. We turned a spare room into a nursery, carefully choosing each piece of furniture and decoration. Friends and family showered us with love and support, and we felt surrounded by a community that cared deeply for us. The months passed quickly, and before we knew it, the day arrived. Melissa went into labor early one morning, and we rushed to the hospital. The hours that followed were a blur of anticipation, excitement, and nerves. When our baby girl was finally born, I felt an overwhelming sense of love and awe. Holding her in my arms for the first time, I knew that my life had changed forever. Melissa looked at me, her face radiant with exhaustion and joy, and I felt a deep gratitude for the family we had created. We named her Grace, a name that felt fitting for the blessing she was in our lives. Bringing her home was a moment of pure joy, and we spent the days that followed getting to know our daughter and adjusting to our new roles as parents. Grace brought a new kind of happiness into our lives, one that was rooted in the simple moments of everyday life. Watching her grow and change, seeing her first smiles and hearing her first laughs, filled our hearts with a love that was both profound and indescribable. As Melissa and I navigated the challenges and joys of parenthood, our bond grew even stronger. We were a team, united by our love for each other and our commitment to raising Grace in a home filled with warmth, laughter, and unconditional love. Our journey had taken us through heartache and healing, but it had also brought us to a place of incredible joy and fulfillment. With Melissa and Grace by my side, I felt ready to embrace all the adventures and challenges that lay ahead, knowing that together, we could face anything. Parenthood brought a new rhythm to our lives, a beautiful chaos filled with laughter, late-night feedings, and moments of wonder. Melissa and I navigated this journey together, learning and growing with each passing day. The early weeks with Grace were a whirlwind of sleepless nights and tender moments. Melissa and I took turns soothing her cries, rocking her to sleep, and marveling at her tiny fingers and toes. Despite the exhaustion, there was a sense of fulfillment that came with caring for our daughter. As Grace grew, so did our routines. We settled into a rhythm of diaper changes, feedings, and playtime. Melissa's art studio became a sanctuary where she could escape for a few hours each day to paint and recharge. I cherished my time with Grace, reading her bedtime stories and singing her lullabies. One afternoon, while Melissa was painting in her studio, I sat with Grace in the living room, watching her play with her favorite stuffed animal. She had Melissa's eyes and my smile, a perfect blend of the two of us. I couldn't help but marvel at how much our lives had changed since she came into our world. Melissa joined us, her face lit up with a smile. "How's my two favorite people?" she asked, leaning down to kiss Grace's cheek. "We're doing great," I replied, reaching out to hold Melissa's hand. "I was just thinking about how lucky we are." She nodded, her gaze softening. "I feel the same way. Being a mom has been the most rewarding experience of my life." Watching Melissa with Grace filled me with admiration. She had seamlessly embraced motherhood, nurturing our daughter with love and patience. Together, we celebrated Grace's milestones, her first smile, her first word, and her first steps. As Grace grew older, our days were filled with adventures. We took family trips to the beach, explored local parks, and introduced Grace to new experiences. Melissa captured these moments with her camera, creating a treasure trove of memories that we would cherish for years to come. One summer, we visited Melissa's parents in their quaint seaside cottage. It was a chance for Grace to spend time with her grandparents and explore the sandy shores and tidal pools. Watching Melissa share stories of her childhood with Grace warmed my heart, knowing that we were creating new memories as a family. Back home, we celebrated Grace's first birthday with a small party surrounded by family and friends. Melissa baked a cake adorned with colorful balloons, and Grace delighted everyone with her infectious laughter and playful spirit. It was a day filled with love and joy, a testament to the happiness Grace had brought into our lives. As the years passed, Melissa and I continued to support each other through the ups and downs of parenthood. We faced challenges together, sleepless nights, teething, and toddler tantrums, but we always found strength in our love for each other and for Grace. One evening, as Melissa and I sat on the porch watching the sunset, I took her hand in mine. "You know," I began, my voice soft with emotion, I never imagined my life would turn out like this, but I'm so grateful that it did." She turned to me, her eyes filled with love. "Me too," she whispered. "I couldn't have asked for a better partner or a more wonderful family." Our journey together had been a tapestry woven with threads of love, resilience, and the unwavering bond that held us close through every twist and turn. Melissa and I had weathered storms and basked in the warmth of countless sunlit moments. As we looked back on our years together, we marveled at how far we had come, from heartbreak to healing, from solitude to building a family filled with love. Grace had grown into a spirited and curious child, filling our days with laughter and wonder. Her laughter echoed through the halls of our home, a reminder of the joy that had bloomed in our hearts since her arrival. Melissa had flourished as a mother, her nurturing spirit guiding Grace with gentle strength and unconditional love. One evening, as Melissa and I sat together in the glow of the setting sun, she turned to me with a radiant smile. "Mike, there's something I've been meaning to tell you," she began, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I looked at her, a question forming on my lips, but before I could speak, she placed a hand on her stomach. "I'm pregnant," she said softly, her voice filled with joy. My heart swelled with happiness, and tears pricked at the corners of my eyes. "That's incredible," I managed to say, pulling her into a tight embrace. "Another baby! Our family is growing!" She nodded, her own eyes shimmering with tears. "I couldn't be happier, Mike. We're so blessed." In the months that followed, our anticipation grew alongside Melissa's belly. Grace eagerly awaited the arrival of her baby sibling, her excitement palpable in every question and gentle touch. We prepared the nursery together, choosing colors and decorations that would welcome our newest addition into our loving home. When the day finally came, Melissa's labor was swift and intense, filled with the quiet strength that had always defined her. As I held her hand and whispered words of encouragement, our second child, a son, entered the world, his cry filling the room with the promise of new beginnings. We named him Ethan, a name that felt right, a testament to the strength and unity that defined our family. With Grace by our side, we marveled at the miracle of life, our hearts overflowing with gratitude and love. As Melissa held Ethan in her arms, I leaned in to kiss her forehead, overwhelmed with emotion. "You are amazing," I murmured, my voice filled with awe. "Our family is complete." She smiled up at me, her eyes shimmering with tears of joy. "Yes," she whispered, "our family is complete." In the years that followed, our days were filled with the laughter of children, the warmth of shared moments, and the comfort of knowing that we were bound together by a love that grew deeper with each passing day. Melissa continued to pursue her passion for art, and her studio is now a place where both Grace and Ethan explore their creativity and imagination. Together, we watched our children grow, nurturing their dreams and guiding them with love and encouragement. We celebrated birthdays, holidays, and milestones with family and friends, cherishing the bonds that united us. Looking back on our journey, from the pain of betrayal to the joy of new beginnings, I knew that every step had led us to this place of happiness and fulfillment. Melissa and I had faced challenges and embraced blessings, weaving a story of love and resilience that would forever be etched in our hearts. As I sat on the porch one evening watching Grace and Ethan play in the yard, I felt a deep sense of peace. Our home was filled with love and laughter, a testament to the strength of our bond and the beauty of our shared journey. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over our quiet corner of the world, I knew that our love story was far from over. It was a story of beginnings, of growth, and of the infinite possibilities that lay ahead. A story that would continue to unfold with each passing day, guided by the love that had brought us together and would forever hold us close.